Now, sometimes it's good to be like water, and sometimes it's good to hold your ground. When and where, and to do all of that. If anybody tells you, oh, let go, let go, let go, and that's all you need to do, you're only half right. And if somebody says to you, apply yourself, you know, do what needs to happen, work hard, that's only half right. So, you know, those are the two extremes. The way I work is to show one extreme and then show the other extreme, and then we play in the middle to see where your balance is. Because one man's medicine is another man's, woman's poison. So you got to find out what works for you. The biggest challenge you ever had in life was getting up on 2 feet and walking. Everybody had the same challenge at one point in their life. Now, we don't remember it necessarily because it happened around the first year of life. But those of you that are parents that have seen kids get up and walk, it's quite amazing. And when a child does that, what do the parents do? Oh my God, yay, you're so amazing. And so we're all inspired to stay up on 2 feet from that moment forward. It's a big deal. And the amount that has to happen in organization, coordination, perception to stand on 2 feet and walk, especially as a little baby, because your muscles aren't and bones aren't developed completely at that point. They don't really get developed. The nervous system doesn't get developed until you're 25 fully, 23. So that's the facts of the matter. But that is a big challenge. We've done it as a species, but each one of us as an individual has done that. Now, when we do that, we created our own style. What worked, what didn't, what successes and failures that we had, how did we get up off the floor, what was my strategy? Did I just get up and start holding things? Did I get up and stand on 2 feet and be independent that way? There's many, many options that happen in that. But when was the last time you ever took a lesson in walking? Never. You know, in the old days they had something called charm school. And charm school was about the way you presented yourself in the world, but also it was a respect for the other person, but it was also a respect for you. If you don't have respect for yourself, nobody's going to respect you. And if you sit in a really bad way or walk in a really bad way, no one's going to respect you. You know, psychopaths and narcissists, they get a lot of respect because they all have really good posture. They do it quite well. Why? Because they put themselves first. Now that sounds horrible to a lot of people. It's not. What you all need to do when it comes to movement and life is put yourself first. Be self-centered to a degree. Now that can go too far. We've seen that all over the place. But take care of yourself first before you take care of someone else. And in movement, take care of you, the organism, before you start to interplay in the environment. And the best way to do that is to have a self-to-self relationship, not a self-to-other relationship. Self-to-self relationship happens through gravity and our connection with ground and how we process gravity. And many of us have an issue with gravity. We have a problem with our relationship with gravity. The other place that you play with other is the environment. So self to other is in the environment. Self to self is more to the ground and gravity and substratum. So we want to play those two things. But in an embodied sequence, we want to be with self first, ground second, and then space third. So we, again, go back to these two options, willing and allowing. And in my ground connection, I have a willing or an allowing. I can yield or I can push. I yield, I surrender, I let it happen. It's a letting go. And then I push, there's a control, a willing, an effort. In space, I can reach and pull. And those are two willings and allowing. Every time I reach out into space, it's a risk. And I go out to other, and then I bring back to self, and then I yield and I push. And you see this when an NBA player is dunking in a basketball. He yields, he pushes, he reaches, and then he pulls. And that is done in such a beautiful sequence that it's effortless. And so there's a frictionless level of movement that goes on. And we want this friction-free economy where we just click on one thing and nothing's getting in the way of us purchasing anything on the internet. Well, we want that movement too. And what you see with great athletes is they have a friction-free way of being, an open attention that's allowing, yet efforting. And those are the good athletes. Any athletes that effort too much usually burn out quickly. Mike Tyson being a great example of that. Other people, they are able to take energy from the field and negotiate that like Muhammad Ali, and they do much better and much more relaxed. Yeah. So going to the gym is way less important than learning how to walk well. Well, why would I say that? Well, we move 150,000 pounds on average every day. So when I step from one foot to the other, I just moved 180 pounds. Now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again. Depending on how well I do that, I could do that really bad, and over 10, 20, 30 years, I'm going to get a hip replacement. Or if I do it well, it'll take me into 100 years with no joint problems at all. You know, we never lift 150,000 pounds in a gym, ever. And so water on a rock wears the rock down. Rain doesn't wear it down as much as a river does. Gravity, moving all day, is like a river. That's what counts more than going to the gym. So my point is pay attention all day and don't go to the gym. And by the way, when we talk about longevity and aging gracefully, this is what we all want to do. Nobody wants to age poorly. What's important? Not the gym. Ever know anybody that's been 90 years old? Ever know anyone who lived to be 90 years old or above? Think about them. Who were they? Were they gym rats? Probably not. They were probably your grandmother, your grandfather that just worked in the garden, did laundry, cooked, led a life. They weren't lazy. They were probably a little feisty. They didn't burn themselves out, but it was a slow and steady pace. That's what we're looking for. The gym doesn't offer that. Everybody's training like they're going to play LeBron James on Saturday, or they're going to win $100,000 if they win a marathon on Saturday. If you're running marathons, you need to look at yourself and see, what are you doing that for? I love the Mount Everest. Oh my God, there's a line of 100 people to go up there. They just passed a dead body going up there because they had to go up to the top of this peak and get their picture taken. What are you doing? You paid 50 grand for that. Really? Really? You could have spent that 50 grand on someone in your neighborhood and changed their life. But nope, you had to go to the top of Mount Everest. And was that good for your health? Actually, it probably took years off your life to do that. So what are you doing? What quality of life do you want? Let's take it easy, everybody, but learn how to hold yourself well all day long in gravity. That's the key. Yes, centenarians aren't ex-athletes. Not at all. Athletes are rode hard and put away wet. They're some of the best movers in our generation at any given moment, and they have some of the shortest lifespans on the planet. In the end, gravity always wins. We all need to make peace with gravity, and that means having a relationship with gravity. It holds us. The other problem with gravity is we live in cyberspace right now. There's no gravity in cyberspace. So when you're tooling around the internet and all of this stuff, you're not in gravity at all. In fact, most of us put our heads forward and go into the computer like this, and we're in this world of a computer. We're not feeling the phenomenal world of gravity. The big story of life is organism and environment. That's me and everything else. That's you and everything else. That's a worm and his world and everything around him, the dirt and whatever else goes on. So even you parents know that your children, it's organism and environment. It's their world and their sensorium that's taking in all this information. They're making sense of it, and then they're putting it back out. And that's as unique as anything. You know, God can't even make the same snowflake twice, let alone a human being. Those of you that are parents and have had more than one kid know they're completely different. I've never met any two that are alike, even if they're identical twins. So there's a neurodiversity or a soul or whatever you want to say that's going on that's different for everyone. We size up the world differently, therefore we move differently, and that's okay. So there's organism and environment. Now, the environment I break down into two things, ground and space. Gravity and ground is the one part of the environment, and space is out here. Now the eyes do space. There's other sensorium, there's smell, there's hearing, there's touch, these sorts of things, and touch comes into gravity. When we look at gravity, it's mostly the ankles, feet, and vestibular system and otolith organ of the inner ear. And then the eyes do space. If I simply close my eyes, then I'm in gravity only. Now I'm sitting, so my sits bones are doing it, but if I stand, it's my feet, and I'll feel myself move one way or the other. You know, try this. Stand and balance on one leg, and then close your eyes. And what you'll find is you'll start to get a little off balance, most people. And then if you put your feet together, close your eyes and just feel that inner system, and let yourself be regulated and aligned with the ground because your eyes are closed, and then stay in that inner system. You can even shift the weight back and forth, take a couple of steps forward or backward, and you feel that inner system. And then you stay in that inner system, and when you open your eyes wide and soft, and you stay in that inner system, and now I'm in the ground, I feel great. Most people, when they open their eyes, they start grabbing space for their orientation. Using space as your orientation is horrible. And I use that word orientation, it's a big deal. We're always orienting all day long. We don't notice it because these processes happen subcortically and even reflexively. Writing reflex, an equilibrium response, all kinds of things that keep us up on 2 feet because that's the intention. If we orient with space, I'm looking around, grabbing space, there's a problem with that because space is always changing. So your life is a misery because your orientation is based on changing. This really becomes a problem when someone you know and love puts their jacket on a couch where it's not supposed to be. So you've violated not only their rules of cleaning up, but you've violated their orientation, and that's personal. And they get very upset over these sorts of things because they're orienting with space. But if you orient with ground, now all of a sudden I don't care about space. And what we're trying to do is be the eye of the hurricane so that I can let the world change around me, but me and my gravity don't get affected, and I'm always okay no matter what goes on. I don't start to lose gravity over stress or how I perceive life, but I let it come in and I ground it out, and everything's cool. You know, I'm sick of people talking about sports getting you in shape. They don't get you in shape. Sports puts you out of shape. What do I mean? Well, I'm going to play baseball. I'm going to throw the ball like this all day long. Yeah, one arm does everything. Golf, whatever, tennis, yeah. Puts you out of shape. Now, certain things don't. The gym, yoga, you do one side, you do the other. That's great. But guess what? Not a lot of hand-eye coordination and those sorts of things. Every exercise modality has its own benefits and liabilities. So look at it, you know. Talk to yoga people, they think yoga's the best. Talk to weightlifters, they think weightlifting is the best. CrossFit, Pilates, Feldenkrais, so go on and on and on. TRX, come on, give me a break, people. They all have their little things that they do, some better than others. But walking and breathing is something we all do, and that's what is included in all those activities. But they all emphasize one thing a little bit more than the other, and understanding what it is that your modality gives you. So if you come in to see me We'll talk about things. So you love golf. Awesome. Golf puts you out of shape. How are we going to combat that? What do we need to do in order to get you to play golf for the rest of your life? That's the goal. Aging gracefully. And what are you looking to do? You want to run marathons for the rest of your life? Give it up right now. Now you'll see there'll be the 80-year-old person that ran a marathon and ooh, wow. Well, they got genetics for that. Some of you don't. Take that person. I'll take an 80-year-old and have a tug of war with them. The person that ran the marathon, they'll get their ass kicked by some old guy that's a woodworker, lumberjack type. Him to run that distance would be horrible. So you've got to get into the sport that matches your genetics. There's a saying, you don't choose your sport chooses you. Because your genetics will determine how well you are in a given sport, which is a given tasking with a given environment, and they're all different. Oh, and there's a movement epidemic going on right now as we enter the information age. Please. I mean, we just have a hangover from the Industrial Revolution, and now we've been catapulted into the information age. And now there's so much information coming at us at so rapid at a pace. Tech is actually intimate now because you've got your smartphone on your person at all times. It's a second brain that we can check for information, and we're checking it constantly. So text, neck, and all of this stuff that we're living down here, and there is a movement epidemic going on. Go to Africa and indigenous populations there. You won't see a movement epidemic going on. They're carrying water on their heads. They're out in the Serengeti looking out. We got our heads in computer screens. Kids are swiping on iPads from the get-go, so we're losing the fine motor skills and all that goes with basket weaving and handwriting and all of that stuff. So there's a movement epidemic right now. We need to bring a little attention to the phenomenal world, Newtonian physics of gravity and how we play in that, and get our heads out of our computers every once in a while. Now, we're doing great things with virtual reality. My wife and I have a product coming out very shortly regarding gravity and virtual reality.